Hi, I'm Shuichi Murakami. Welcome to the Designing Landscape Form series. In the previous episode, we learned hints for spatial operations that reveal natural phenomena inspired by the works of land art. These approaches focused on designing how landscapes change in response to natural forces, regardless of whether the observer is moving or standing still. The theme this time is let's design landscape sequences. While walking through a garden, have you ever had a moment when a sudden change in scenery caught your attention? Landscapes also change through the movement of the observer. In this episode, we will learn design approaches for creating landscape sequences that allow us to experience and enjoy changes in the landscape. On the screen are three landscape sketches shown in episode 1 of series 1. These sketches depict different places, but as you listen to the following story, try looking at them from left to right in sequence. How does it feel? I was walking through a grove of trees. Then I came out to the edge of a pond. Continuing along the water's edge, I began to see a distant cluster of buildings appear across the water. When you hear this story, don't these sketches begin to feel like a frame-by-frame representation of a continuous landscape experience as I walked through? In this episode, we refer to this kind of landscape change experience through walking as a landscape sequence. A landscape sequence is commonly expressed through a series of connected sketches like these. In designing landscape sequences, the keys lie in what kind of changes are created between successive scenes. From here on, let us take a closer look at the different types of changes that can occur. First, let us consider the scene change from closed to open. A typical example is in the spatial composition shown in the axonometric drawing. Moving from an indoor room to the outdoor, where the condition shifts from a space in which the view is blocked by walls to one with no visual obstruction. In other words, to create a scene change from closed to open, one way is to compose the space in this way and to design the path of movement accordingly. Next, let us consider the scene change from wide to narrow. In this spatial composition shown here, this can be understood as a shift from a condition with no elements on either side to one in which the space is enclosed by walls on both sides. One way to create a wide to narrow change is to compose a space in this way and to anticipate the path of movement. Next, scene change in direction from moving straight ahead to turning. In the spatial compositions shown here, this involves turning 90 degrees to the right from the direction of travel so far. If a landmark element is placed ahead along the original direction, it disappears from view at the moment of turning, making the change in orientation even more apparent. Now we turn to the scene change from level to inclined. In this spatial composition, one can imagine walking along a flat path that gradually becomes an uphill slope. As the physical effort required increases, the path rises toward the body and the viewer's gaze naturally drops toward the ground. Next comes the scene change from near to distant. More specifically, this occurs when the viewer's gaze, previously directed toward the ground while ascending a slope, suddenly opens up to a distant view of mountain ranges upon reaching higher ground. The key point here is that the ground on which one stands becomes the foreground. Next is the change from soft to hard. For example, this can be understood as a change from walking on soft grass to walking on hard tiles. Changes 1 to 5 were based on changes in scale, direction, and slope, but this one is a tactile change caused by a difference in the material of the ground. There is also a change in environmental condition, such as the change from bright to dark. More specifically, this can be understood as a shift from an open sunlit condition where daylight is evenly distributed to a darker condition within a globe where little sunlight reaches the ground. The degree to which the tree canopy blocks sunlight is the key factor that shapes both how dark the space becomes and how strong the change from bright to dark feels. Another environmental change can be from wet to dry. More specifically, a shift from a condition dominated by water surfaces and aquatic plants to one dominated by sandy ground. It is almost like experiencing two contrasting environments, a wetland and a desert in succession. As it is, the ground would be difficult to walk on, so stepping stones or some form of paving would be needed. When these 8 changes occur in sequence along a single route, the abstract garden model can be represented in an axonometric diagram like this. The sequence moves from close to open, from wide to narrow, from straight to turn, from level to inclined, from near to distant, from soft to hard, from bright to dark, and from wet to dry. To conclude today's episode, we examined 8 types of change as key elements in landscape sequences. Each type of change can also occur in the opposite direction. For example, from light to dark or from dark to light. Moreover, these changes are not limited to the spatial configurations introduced here. They can emerge in many other spatial settings. There are also many possible changes beyond those discussed in this episode. As you imagine which changes to introduce and how to sequence them, design the spatial composition and circulation, and create your own landscape sequence. In the next episode, we move from a relatively abstract spatial context to more concrete spatial elements for creating landscape sequences. Our focus will be on trees. If you are interested, you may also find it helpful to watch the episodes that explore trees in more detail. See you in the next episode.